Coffee, the elixir of life. But is it better for gains or game? Today we're breaking down how exactly caffeine hits your brain depending on what you're doing. Because the way the caffeine boosts focus for a gamer, it doesn't go the same way for a gym lifter. Let's take a look at it. So let's start with something low arousal, okay? Let's say something like when I swam in high school, okay? Swimming is very easy to do, right? Everyone goes, oh, swim's so easy, but right, you just go, it's a very repetitive motion. The same way when you're lifting in the gym, the same way when you're just writing, word for word, you're just writing lists, or you're doing something very repetitive, you're doing like addition problems, right? That's hopefully all easy for us. But let's say you have something low arousal. The y-axis is the complexity of the task, right? This might be something very high, this might be something very low, okay? And then I want to actually have the caffeine level that is in your system, okay? So the x-axis is caffeine. Let's just reason this out myself, all right? So let's say you have something very complex, right? Low caffeine is actually the best for this. So this is your caffeine level. This is your complexity of your task, okay? So your caffeine level and how it relates with the complexity of the task, all right? What is the optimal caffeine level? Because I love coffee, you guys love coffee, whether it's G Fuel, whether it's coffee, whether it's pre-workout, we're all caffeine stim junkies here, okay? So we're gonna start off with the complexity of the task in relation to the caffeine level. So I'm gonna start off by making a statement and I'm gonna prove it, okay? A high complex task is actually optimal with a low caffeine level. An example of this, I'm gonna tell you a story, is back in high school, I was on the swim team. Okay, we had swim and dive, but they were just the same team. So I was on the swim team, there was also a dive team, but we both did our meets together. Okay, and as similar as swim and dive are, they're radically different. Because when I swam, I was doing the same thing, the same repetition over and over and over again. Meanwhile, my friend on the dive team, she would do her dives, but she would do this one very intricate task that she could not mess up one little bit about, or she would bang her head on the diving board and get hurt, right? So she was very, very pristine, very, very purposeful with her movement and with her tactics for it. So she had to line up, do this thing, do that thing, do that thing. Okay, I'm rambling. But the point is, her task was very intricate, mine was very repetitive. Okay, now, her task was this, okay? It was a very high complex task. So if she wanted to, let's say, have any caffeine, very low amounts would actually be optimal here, okay? Meanwhile, I'm a swimmer, okay? Freestyle was my thing. I would do the same thing over and over and over again. I would just put my arm in front of the other, put my arm in front of the other, put my arm in front of the other. And that's all I had to do. Aside from a flip turn here and there, all I had to do was just put one arm in front of the other and just work that as hard as I could, okay? So my task was very low in complexity, but because it was low in complexity, I would actually benefit much more from a higher caffeine level, okay? So just for purpose of example, let's say my task was this complex. Meanwhile, hers was this up here, okay? My ideal caffeine level, maybe this is exaggerated, but it would be maybe here, okay? This is very high. Let's just put these puppies. There's all these in between. Going to the gym and pumping iron, everybody takes a bunch of caffeine. You hear a pre-workout, okay? You've probably heard about that, where essentially it's just a lot of caffeine mixed into a powder. It's like G Fuel for gamers, okay? Because the gym tasks are very repetitive. They're very low complexity. So it's another one of these things. It might be like this because maybe you're doing a couple other things that are a little bit more intricate than just putting one arm in front of the other. Runners take a lot of caffeine because it's very low complexity, right? But you would benefit from a much higher caffeine level. Okay, I'm gonna tell you why. So when I play Smash Bros, I'm a competitive esports player, right? And I play Pikachu. Pikachu is a very intricate character and he has a lot of combos that you really have to be very precise with. It's kind of like diving, right? Where let's say Ganondorf, a very low tier character, but his game plan is very clear and simple. You press the A button, you run at him and you do one thing over and over and over again, and then maybe it works. That's why he's not that good of a character because he's low complex, right? But for Pikachu, he's very good because he has all these intricate combos where he has to put a lot of effort. And this isn't me blowing smoke up my own butt. Like literally it is a very high skill ceiling character that requires a lot of skill. I'm not that good, okay? I'm pro. Pikachu is a very high complexity character. He has a very high skill ceiling. So for these combos that I have to be so precise and so focused, with, it's a very high complex task. And if you think about it, literally just take a second and think about it. Imagine if I took 600 milligrams of caffeine right here, right? Like maybe that's 600 milligrams, okay? That's way too much if I'm trying to be very precise with literally where my fingers move in this little zone. This is all important, okay? So that would be another thing where I'm up here. It's a very high complex task. I don't want a lot of caffeine in my system, okay? And this goes for so many games where chess players, right? It's not as much as an intricate task moving the pieces, but your brain has to fire. It's not precise movement. Precise movement is where you want the lowest level of caffeine. That way your brain can focus. Caffeine does increase your focus, but not in the same way that it would increase your intricacy of focus, okay? So for things like this, right? And generally this is how the graph would look, okay? Mid-level complexity tasks might optimally operate at a mid-level of caffeine, but low complexity of tasks operate highest at a high level of caffeine. Because when it's so repetitive, you don't have to think. You don't have to go, okay, I need to move my hand here, I need to move my hand here, I need to move my leg here. It's very low arousal, it's very low complexity of task. Therefore, you're able to just slam a bunch of caffeine, and it makes you way more focused on that very repetitive thing. But again, going back to a very high complex task like diving, why would she want 600 milligrams of caffeine in her system if all she's gonna do is do one jump and she has to do it as precise as possible? She doesn't have to do something quick. It's not quick, it's not repetitive. It's one thing as perfect as you can get it. And yes, for games and for athletes, it might increase your response time, it might increase your reaction time, but that's not always what it's about. And obviously that's where games get very complex in and of themselves, because in Smash Bros, obviously you want the reaction time, but you also need your hands to do exactly what your brain tells them to do. If I'm off of 600 milligrams, if I'm taking a bunch of cups of coffee, or I'm taking pre-workout, if I'm scooping pre-workout like I would in the gym, I'm gonna mess up my combos. And that's where coffee is bad for you. That's why pre-workout is bad for you if you're doing a high complex task. Now let's say for my example, right? This is actually a pretty good example of a medium level task. Making this video might be like this, okay? I am off of a lot of caffeine right now, maybe even too much. I don't know if you could tell, but this is a mid-level complexity task, right? I have to think quickly, I have to speak in a cohesive manner so that way you guys can understand what I am telling you, right? But it's not so complex that I'm diving and I'm risking my life and I could mess up and get really, really hurt, right? It's not like a one-time thing where I have to like throw a dart perfectly. Darts is another great example of where you would not want to be on a lot of caffeine. Because imagine you're shaking. Like, essentially imagine any task that you're doing. Now imagine yourself shaking, okay? Imagine the diver who's up on the thing and he's like that, right? It does not make any sense for you to be so overwhelmed and so overstimulated. It would much more make sense for you to be here. But now let's say I'm pushing 405 pounds on the bench press. It's a very simple task and I want to move as much weight as possible. I want to do this one simple thing, right? It's a single thing, but it's very simple. Literally all I'm doing is pushing my arms from here to here. I need to try as hard as I can. If I'm shaking, that's totally fine. Maybe I wouldn't be off of 600 milligrams, but I would definitely want some stimulation. That's why caffeine is actually better in the gym than it is for video games, okay? It does come down to what game you're playing, but by and large, especially games like first-person shooters, you do not want a shaky hand. I have no idea why people are buying gaming supplements that have caffeine in them. It makes no sense at all. Because why do you want caffeine when you need a steady hand? Games are dexterity, right? For Smash Bros, Valorant, anything, and first-person shooters. It's a very high level task, very high complexity that you need a steady hand for, okay? Yeah, reaction time is great, but if you're shaking, you literally will not operate at an optimal level of efficiency. So that's why for things like high complexity tasks, low caffeine is the best. Whereas a low complexity task, higher caffeine level is the best. So my final verdict is that coffee, pre-workout, any gamer supplement like that is actually best in the gym. Because Again, recapping, low complexity tasks such as pushing iron, such as doing a push-up, such as doing something very repetitive. Not like games. Games, you need the focus. Games, you need a steady hand. But in the gym, you don't need that kind of thing. You literally just need to work as hard as you can, as much as you can, doing these reps over and over and over. The repetitiveness and the focus is the most important thing. Whereas when you're playing a video game, you need the hand-eye coordination, you need the reaction time, but so much more important is a steady hand. So as we talked about today, the truth is caffeine isn't good or bad in games or in the gym. It's just about the timing and the dosage, okay? So again, remember, games, lower caffeine because you want that high level of focus and that high level of stability. Whereas if you're in the gym, pushing iron, getting swole, like your boy, top link in the description, by the way, if you want to check out more about that, more about fitness content. It's actually a fitness community I'm building. You want high levels of caffeine, and that's where I like to go because high levels of caffeine make me happy. I'm sure they make you happy too. I appreciate you guys. Comment what you think down below. How much coffee are you drinking? Do you drink coffee? Do you drink pre-workout? Do you drink any of these gamer supplements? I know a lot of different people do a lot of different things. Personally, I'm more pre-workout. I do have my coffee here and there, but pre-workout is my baby. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Tell me what you're using. And as always, guys, I appreciate y'all. And like I said at the end of all of my videos, life is a dice roll. You just gotta roll the dice a hell of a lot more than everybody else. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.